Hello, my name is Debbie Kay. I'm with the League of Women Voters of Portland, and this is Video Voters Guide. We're in the studios of MetroEast Community Media doing interviews with candidates running in the May 2018 primary election. With me today is Rod Monroe, running for state senator of the 24th District. Thank you so much for coming.
Debbie, it's a pleasure.
Glad to have you. Please tell us about yourself and why you are running for office.
Well, Debbie, I've been in elective office for a long time. I was first elected in the 70s, and I'm a retired teacher. I've also been a college professor, served on the Mount Hood Community College Board for a decade, served on the David Douglas School Board for a decade, including a stint as chair, and nearly 25 years total in the Oregon legislature.
Thank you. What steps will you take to ensure that more Oregonians are qualified and hired for Oregon jobs?
Well, jobs is very important, and I've worked on this issue for some time. For example, I've promoted and authored the Oregon Promise. Now, Oregon Promise allows our high school students, when they graduate with at least a 2.5 GPA, to actually have 2 years of college tuition paid. And that prepares them for going on then to university if they want to, or going on to a job. So I think the Oregon Promise is one of the best programs we've come up with. I also was a big supporter of Measure 98. Measure 98 passed a couple years ago, and it was designed to try and improve our graduation rate by encouraging students to take what we call STEM, science and technology kinds of programs. Measure 98 also had an emphasis on dual credit, which is what I taught when I was a high school teacher, where students actually get college credit and high school credit at the same time. And that encourages, once again, an improved graduation rate. So the idea is to improve our dismal graduation rate, which is currently at about 75%, get that up to at least 90%.
Thank you. Oregon traditionally has a budget shortfall. How will you address this challenge?
Well, Oregon has a budget shortfall because of our revenue picture. We have about the lowest corporate taxes in the nation. So bumping that up a little bit would certainly give us some more of the revenue that we need for schools and for public safety and for human resources. We also have one of the lowest tobacco tax rates in the nation. Our cigarette tax is more than $1 a pack less than the state of Washington right next door. And we also have the lowest beer tax in the nation at about a half a penny a bottle. So you bump the beer tax a little, you bump the cigarette tax a little, nudge the corporate tax up to more like an average rate, and you could raise considerably more money and fund the kinds of budget holes that we find ourselves in.
How do you sell that?
How do I sell it? Well, first I have to sell it to my fellow legislators, and I've been on the budget committee virtually every session, chaired the revenue committee, and so on. It needs to hopefully have bipartisan support. So I kind of like to do things that way, where we have don't just try to pass something with just Democrat votes, but get some Republican votes in there too. Because, there are a number of Republicans that really care about our schools and our colleges and our public safety. And so I'd like to give them an opportunity to fund what they care about.
Thank you. What do you recommend to make Oregon's infrastructure and population more resilient to seismic, flood, and wildlife disasters?
And I've worked on infrastructure a lot. During the time I was on the Metro Council, I was chair of JPAC, which is the Joint Policy Advisory Committee on Transportation. So I worked on infrastructure projects. 2 years ago, the legislature passed this $5.3 billion transportation funding package. It had bipartisan support. We traveled all over the state and listened to voters in terms of what they wanted. That is in the process of providing great upgrade to our bridges, our highways, and so on. The two major highways in the greater Portland area, I-205 and I-5, both have a flaw. And the flaw is that they have 3 lanes that then narrow down to 2 lanes. And that always causes gridlock. Another thing that we passed just in this last session, we had provided an opportunity for a new Selwood Bridge. And it's pretty well completed now. Fine, beautiful bridge. But we actually had some money left over. And so we passed a bill that gave Multnomah County the opportunity to use some of that extra money to study Burnside Bridge in particular. When the big one comes, when that big earthquake comes, the Burnside Bridge is the most retrofittable of all of the bridges across the Willamette. And so if that big one comes, or when it comes, they say it's inevitable, we're still going to need to be able to get across the Willamette River. And probably the easiest route would be on the Burnside Bridge. It's the one that's most retrofittable. Metro's done studies on this and says, no, that's the right one to do.
All right, well, thank you. We are out of time. I appreciate your coming today. This has been the Video Voters Guide. Thank you for watching. The primary election is Tuesday, May 15th. Be sure to inform yourself about the candidates, the ballot measure, and vote. Your vote really counts. Thank you.